Town of the Wild was really significant to me, but it was also definitely the hardest track to produce due to how it started. Hey everyone! Now that my first EP, Towns of Legend, has been out for a little bit, I wanted to share about what went into the making of this music. Today we'll be talking about Town of the Wild, the first track on the album. Town of the Wild was of course inspired by The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, which is a really significant game to me because it's what got me back into gaming after I had taken a break for a little bit, and it's when I really started to pay attention to game audio as a whole. Breath of the Wild has such detailed audio in terms of both its sound design and its music that I often found myself stopping for a while I was playing just to listen to the world. It launched me into a period of transcribing and arranging a whole bunch of video game compositions in order to learn as much about this music and the production behind it as possible. And I even presented some of what I learned at a game audio conference a couple years ago, which was a lot of fun. Breath of the Wild launched me into game audio, which is a path that I'm still on today. Starting to work on this track in particular was the first time that I realized that beyond just studying and arranging this music, I could actually learn to write and produce it myself, which was really exciting, and it's the idea behind this whole project. So Town of the Wild was really significant to me. But it was also definitely the hardest track to produce due to how it started. Town of the Wild was composed with a completely different approach from the rest of the tracks. It didn't start out as a linear piece, which is what we'd call music that's meant to be listened to from beginning to end, it's the same every time, but rather as an interactive and dynamic music system, which we find all the time in video games, which makes the music much more interactive with the player and different every time you hear it. I wrote Town of the Wild to try and replicate the way that Breath of the Wild transitioned between day and night in its towns. To do this, I created a music system with smaller interconnected segments that all transition seamlessly between each other. I won't get into the nitty-gritty of the music system this time, although if that's something you'd be interested in, let me know down in the comments. I can maybe talk about it another time. But for now, I'll just say that instead of working with one piece of music that ran from beginning to end, I was working with close to around a dozen shorter music segments that could all be connected to each other in different ways depending on when the transition from day to night or night to day was triggered, and which music segment had come before it. This made arranging and producing the track a lot more work, as I had to decide how to best arrange the segments to make the most musical sense for this format, and make sure that all the transitions were functioning in my digital audio workspace just as seamlessly as in the game audio middleware software I was initially working in to implement into a game engine. All that being said, I still feel that it was well worth it to go through the process of designing the music system, and the result is a track that has these large shifts in tone and feel that really make this piece unique. So that's Town of the Wild. It was a personally significant as well as particularly tricky piece to produce, but it set this whole project in motion, so it only made sense to put it right at the beginning of the EP. Hopefully you enjoyed learning a little bit about what went into making this piece, and stay tuned for more videos diving into the rest of the tracks. You can find Towns of Legend on Bandcamp and streaming on all major music streaming services, so go check it out if you haven't already. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one.